The rain came steady that night, streaking across the windows of a roadside bar called Rusty's Roadhouse. Neon signs buzzed faintly in the dark, their colors bleeding across the wet pavement outside. Inside, the air was warm, filled with the mingling scents of fried food, spilled beer, and wood polish. Country music played from an old jukebox in the corner, and conversations overlapped in a low, steady hum. Laughter rose from one side of the room where a group of friends clinked glasses together, while on the other side, a few regulars sat quietly, keeping mostly to themselves. At a small table tucked into the corner sat an old man. His posture was slightly hunched, his hands weathered and lined with age. He nursed a simple glass of water, sipping slowly, as though time itself had slowed down around him. His name was Frank. The faded jacket draped over his shoulders told part of his story. The patch on the sleeve read, U.S. Army Veteran. To some, it might have looked like just another old jacket. But to Frank, it was a reminder of sacrifice, of years served far away from home, of brothers lost in battles survived. There were nights he still dreamed of those places. The cold of early mornings in the desert, the way sandstorms could erase the horizon, the sound of choppers overhead, the crackle of radios, the silence that followed when the noise stopped and you realized who hadn't made it back. The jacket wasn't fabric to him, it was memory stitched into cloth. Frank wasn't here for attention. He wasn't here to boast about his past. He was here for the quiet, for a moment of peace, and maybe to feel the hum of life happening around him. But peace has a way of being interrupted when arrogance walks through the door. The calm shattered when the bar's door slammed open with a force that made heads turn. And strode. A man in his late 20s, boots stomping against the wooden floor, his voice already louder than the jukebox. His name was Kyle, and the way he carried himself, chest puffed out, chin high, a smirk carved onto his face, announced that he believed the room now belonged to him. He was the kind of man who fed on attention. He carried himself like he needed the world to notice him, to validate him. And when that didn't happen naturally, he manufactured it through arrogance, through dominance. He swaggered toward the bar, barking an order for a drink. His friends trailed in behind him, already laughing too loudly, eager to mirror his bravado. Kyle scanned the room as if hunting for something, or someone, to challenge. And then his eyes landed on Frank. The veteran's jacket caught his attention. The patch on the sleeve, the words, U.S. Army Veteran. A sneer crept across Kyle's face. He pushed away from the bar, drink in hand, and made his way toward Frank's quiet corner. Well, what do we have here? Kyle's voice boomed, silencing nearby conversations. An old man playing soldier. Frank didn't look up. He stayed still, hoping the young man would lose interest. But Kyle leaned closer, his voice dripping with mockery. What's the matter, Grandpa? Couldn't cut it in the real world. So you sit here pretending you're still relevant. Tell me, how many medals did they pity you with before you got too weak to fight? A few nervous laughs scattered from his friends at the bar. The rest of the room fell uncomfortably silent. Frank's fingers tightened around his glass. But he didn't raise his voice. He didn't defend himself. He just sat there, still as stone, weathering the insult as he had weathered storms before. Inside, though, old memories stirred. Memories of deserts and jungles, of nights too long, of brothers in arms whose names he still whispered when no one could hear. Memories of holding the hand of a soldier as he drew his last breath. But Frank didn't lash out. He didn't even lift his eyes. The silence weighed heavy, pressing down on everyone in the room. People shifted in their seats, uneasy, watching cruelty drip from Kyle's words while dignity remained seated in the corner. The arrogance of one man echoed loudly, but so did the cowardice of everyone else. Those who watched, those who stayed still, unwilling to intervene, until the sound of chairs scraping across the floor broke the spell. It began with one chair, then another and another. From the back of the bar, 20 men rose to their feet. They were impossible to miss. Broad-shouldered leather jackets, patches stitched proudly across their vests. The words were bold and unmistakable. Rolling Thunder Motorcycle Club. Their boots struck the wooden floor in unison as they moved closer, their sheer presence filling the room with a weight that Kyle had not anticipated. At their head walked a giant of a man with a great beard and eyes sharp as steel. He stopped just a few feet away, his voice steady and low, but carrying more power than any shout. You got a problem with him? The man asked, his gaze fixed firmly on Kyle. Kyle blinked, surprised but unwilling to show weakness. What's it to you? He shot back, his voice rising. The leader didn't flinch. He leaned in slightly, his tone sharper now. That man you're mocking? He wore a uniform so you wouldn't have to. He fought battles you'll never understand. And you think you can stand here and belittle him? The bikers closed in, forming a wall around Frank. 20 men. 20 silent protectors, each one radiating loyalty and defiance. The room seemed to shrink. The music had long since faded. All that remained was the sound of breathing, the creak of floorboards, and the tension thick enough to touch. Kyle shifted uncomfortably. His earlier grin faltered. The smirk that had seemed so permanent now flickered uncertain. The gray-bearded leader didn't back down. "If you've got disrespect to spill," he said firmly, "you spill it to us. Otherwise, you shut your mouth. Buy that man a drink and walk away." Kyle's swagger cracked. He looked over his shoulder, searching for support from his friends. But they weren't laughing anymore. Their eyes darted to the floor, unwilling to stand beside him. The weight of 20 men's stares bore down on him. Their silence spoke louder than any threat. Kyle muttered under his breath, trying to regain control. "Fine, whatever." The leader's eyes narrowed. "Say it louder." Kyle swallowed hard, the bravado finally breaking. "Fine, I'll leave." He turned on his heel and stormed toward the door, muttering curses. But the sound of his boots against the wooden floor betrayed the truth. He wasn't striding out in triumph. He was running from humiliation. The door slammed behind him, and with it, the tension in the bar broke. The bikers turned, their eyes softening as they looked at Frank. The gray-bearded leader pulled out a chair and sat down across from him. "Sir," he said gently, "you don't pay for a single thing tonight. Your food, your drink, it's on us." Another biker raised his glass high. "To Frank," he declared loudly, "and to every veteran who's ever worn the uniform." The bar erupted. Glasses clinked, voices rose, and cheers filled the air. Strangers who had stayed silent minutes ago now shouted in agreement, their respect pouring forth in waves. Frank's eyes glistened. He lifted his glass slowly, his voice low but steady. "Thank you," he whispered. For him, it wasn't about the drink. It wasn't about being defended in a fight he hadn't chosen. It was about dignity, about knowing his service hadn't been forgotten. That night, Rusty's Roadhouse was no longer just a bar. It became a place of unity, of gratitude, of overdue recognition. Life gives us moments where we're asked to choose, moments where we can stay silent, or stand up. On that night, 20 men stood up, and in doing so, they reminded everyone of a truth that too often fades into the background. Respect is not optional. It is earned, and it is owed. Frank didn't need to prove himself. He didn't need to fight back. His dignity had been restored by those willing to draw a line, to say, "Not here, not tonight." And that's the lesson we carry with us. That real strength isn't found in cruelty or arrogance. It's found in loyalty, in courage, in protecting those who deserve it most. And maybe, just maybe, the real story isn't only about Frank, or about Kyle, or even about the 20 bikers. It's about the quiet truth that lives in all of us. The truth that tells us when something is wrong, when silence is betrayal, and when courage demands a voice. So the next time you witness someone being torn down, remember Frank, remember the bikers who rose to their feet, and remember that silence makes us complicit. But standing up can change everything. If this story touched your heart, hit the like button to let us know. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder of courage, dignity, and respect. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire and uplift. Now it's your turn. Have you ever witnessed someone stand up for another in a way that changed everything? Drop your story in the comments. Your words might be the spark for our next video.